he was a very straight and honest scientist, a very good researcher, not a political person. And what he showed was, what his clinic showed, many peer-reviewed studies, was that gender dysphoria of the type that you described is relatively rare. But if you leave kids alone till they're 19 or 18, 80 to 90% of them settle into their biological identity. Although about 80% of them are also homosexual in their orientation. And so the pathway for him, before this was all politicized, was you'd have a child who was gender non-conforming temperamentally, somewhat like you were. You didn't have a pattern of female interests, let's say. And then prone to depression and anxiety, and then that combination would produce this gender dysphoria, and that would become quite intense around the dawn of puberty. But if you just backed the hell off and waited, those kids would settle into their body, but generally adopt a homosexual orientation. And so that was, as far as I could tell, that was the best research. Now, Zucker got slaughtered for this once it became politicized. He lost his job. He was pilloried by the Toronto Star, the newspaper here. He won a lawsuit against them just a couple of years ago, but they demolished his career. And his guideline medically was, don't do any harm, right? Back the hell off. You can provide these kids with support and you can walk them through their emotional problems, but you should certainly not rush into anything more dramatic. Now, you said you started therapy when you were 12. What were you told about what was plaguing you?
I think before I get into that, there's some things that I should bring up before that. I mentioned that I did have a late diagnosis for autism, and this is because in preschool and my elementary school years, my teachers often told my parents actually that I had some symptoms indicative of autism, and they suggested that they get me diagnosed. But when they brought me to my doctor as a kid, they were told, oh, she's too smart to be autistic. She's too socially developed to be autistic. And so I kind of missed the best opportunity window, the best ages, I guess you would say, to get the diagnosis. It wasn't until after I stopped transitioning that I got the diagnosis, actually.
Okay.
And I find that played a stronger role in the development of my gender dysphoria than my sexual orientation did, because I'm mostly heterosexual. I'm mostly attracted to men, and I mean, I do have like a very marginal attraction to other women, but it's mostly sexual in nature. I don't really have any emotional attraction to them, and it's not something that I really ever care about, because I mean, it's not like I do want to have a family one day. I do want to have children, and I can't really do that naturally with a woman, so I just don't really see a point in it.